If you have your Bibles, 1 Kings. It's in the Old Testament. 1 Kings. We've been on this journey for a while. We've been talking about several things. All of them start with the letter S. Just a coincidence there. Not trying to be, light or anything like that. It's kind of fun when I do it that way, but the purpose is a lot different here. We've been looking at some things here, and I think it's the process of when you surrender your life to the Lord and when you follow the Lord, there's some things that I think we kind of leave out sometime. And I think there's a lot of misleading with what does it really mean to follow Christ with all your heart. And I think clearly in the Bible we see a lot of evidence of that, obviously, in the direction, so it's just not left up to us because we'd mess it up if we tried to do it ourselves. But it's very clear. And what we do, so I'm going to quote these definitions one more time just to kind of help you remember. If you've not been a part of this series, and I'm sure you can catch it on our webpage and all that other stuff there. So I don't know if last Sunday was on there, but anyway, you can look that up and kind of follow us. But we're going to close this thing out. So it's been my task to try to bring what we've been talking about in the last probably 4 Sundays that we've been together and try to bring it to this accumulation of what does it really mean to follow Christ, and this is the direction. And we come to our last point, and it's the word to do service or to serve, to be a servant. But first of all, we talked about surrender. Sermon title was I Surrender All. And we came up with a definition of a spiritual definition that we can work with, because we get a lot confused about what that really means. If we surrender everything, or we sacrifice everything, we have nothing left. And yet, as I dug into this and dug a little deeper to understand this, because we don't use that word, so we throw that word out, but we fully don't understand it. As I dug deeper, I realized there's a pattern here and a process here. And so we began to look at this word surrender. Surrender to God means you relinquish your control, you submit your authority. And in a discussion, when I asked you, what is the hardest thing to surrender? And we came up with the idea that the hardest thing to do is a surrender of your will, correct? It's hard to surrender your will. And I led you into this, I'm going to say it again, but I said this to you, that God never crushes your will to surrender. It's your choice. We're going to look at that a little bit more. And the second word we looked at was the word sacrifice. And so the process is as we surrender all our control, or whatever we think we may have control over, just our lives, when we surrender that, then the next step is there's a sacrifice. And that sacrifice is the action of actually giving up the things that you surrender. And so the Lord tells us very clearly that what are we supposed to surrender? Our very lives, everything. And in that we become a living sacrifice that is pleasing unto God. So the process, surrender and sacrifice. And then we come to this new word that we're going to look at toward the end of the service. I'm going to kind of build all this together, and hopefully I can finish this today. Service, let me fill that definition, there we go. Service is the obedience of a surrendered and sacrificial life. And that service is woven into all that you do in your life. So service isn't something you do on Sunday morning, or maybe on a Tuesday night, but service comes out of the obedience of a surrendered life and a sacrificial life, and out of that is this obedient lifestyle that you display, and we see the actions of a life that is surrendered and a life that is sacrificed, and the way that we see that is in the area of service. Say the word service for me. And that didn't hurt one bit, did it? And we'll get the idea of talking about a servant, and we got to struggle with that. There are 3 words kind of that's interwoven in the Old Testament and New Testament. The word service and servant and serve. It occurs over 1,100 times in the Bible. That's a pretty strong word, would not you say? Over 1,100 times that's this word servant, to serve. Service occurs in the scripture verses here. The Hebrew word is eved, and in that it kind of denotes a sense of activity. In other words, it's obedience that's shown with action. That we see this a lot. It's a description of Moses and Jacob and Ruth. We see these are words that are describing them. In fact, Moses, it occurs over 400 times, and in the life of David in the Old Testament, the word servant occurs over 500 times. It's a predominant characteristic of those that are obedient to the Lord, and we see that action of a surrendered life, a sacrificial life, as a servant of God, and we see those actions, and they're called servants. In the Greek, it's doulos, and the Greek word, and most of that connotation, when we see that word servant, service, we see that as an attribute of somebody who is a follower of Jesus Christ. They become not a slave to sin, but they become a servant unto righteousness, a servant unto God. That was the very character, and that was the very word that Jesus used of himself, didn't he? He said, I came not to be served, but I came to what? To be a, say the word servant. I didn't hurt it, I did it. I'm going to get y'all to say that several times, hopefully. So, we're going to look at 2 Kings, or you're in 1 Kings, aren't you? Yes. We'll go to 2 Kings in a minute, but 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 19. Here's the title of the message here. Have fun with this. Barbecue cows and burnt plows. I had like 8 different titles for this message today, so I kind of want to have a little fun here this morning. Is that okay to have fun in church? I won't tell you Baptists in here. We can have fun in church. 1 Kings 19. Maybe it's something you've read before, but maybe it's not. But man, my Bible just seems, this Bible particularly just seems open there, because I've read this about 15, 20 times just to kind of get a word from the Lord here for you this morning. So let's read this. We're going to stand to read the word of God's word, okay? Let's stand. So he is talking about Elisha. Let me have to remember that, because I'm going to mess it up sometimes. I'm going to strike with you. Sometimes I get Elijah mixed up with Elisha. The way to remember that, best way to do it, J becomes before an S. Elijah came before Elisha. For all you that don't know your alphabet, J comes before an S. And so that's a good way to remember that, okay? So he, say it. Elisha. So Elijah departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was the 12th. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him, and he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow you. And Elijah said to him, go back again for what I've done with you. That's kind of an interesting comment. And he returned from following him, and he took the yoke of oxen, sacrificed them, and boiled the flesh with the yoke of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he arose and went after Elijah and his sister. Lord, we thank you for the reading of your word. We thank you for the power and authority that comes in the word of God. Lord, may we have a teachable spirit in this place. If you agree with that, say amen. Amen. See? And we see this ridiculous, crazy story. You know? And at first we kind of read over something like that and go, well, that was nice. But I don't think we can this morning. I want to really look at this morning to kind of understand it, because in this I've discovered this process that I've been trying to teach y'all. This life that is surrendered comes with sacrifice, and then comes with service, and I found it. And I got excited about this. So for about 3 weeks now, I've been reading this over and over, just trying to get a word from the Lord here. And so we see this beginning of this ministry of Elisha. Now, Elijah is at the end of this ministry. And if you've been here in the series, It Is What It Is, how many of y'all were here part of that series? At least one service, okay? You can raise your hand on that, okay? And in that, we looked at the life of Elijah. We saw the miracles. We saw this prophet, the way that he lived in caves and ran and fought, and miracles and all these wonderful things. Well, his days are numbered, and his life is, he knows that he's at the end of his ministry, and God tells him to go find this guy named Elisha, and he's going to take over your ministry. He's going to be the prophet to the people of Israel. You got to understand what's going on here. It's kind of the 9th century BC, And Israel again is just going through some tough times. We looked at this with Elisha, and it's still the same. So in the time of Elisha, we see this typical thing that Israel's doing again. They've turned their backs on God, and the division is north and south, and so we see this controversy that's going on, and the brokenness of Israel again, and they're worshiping the god Baal. And so we find this scenario that's going on here. But what we see here in this story is we see just an ordinary man. All of a sudden, Elisha appears in this text here in 1 Kings chapter 19. We don't know anything about him other than he's a farmer, he's wealthy, and he's doing just an ordinary day's work. I love it when God calls ordinary people into extraordinary lives. Amen? Yep. I mean, just ordinary people. The Bible is full of those, of people that just are living their lives, are doing ordinary things, and God calls them to do the supernatural, just because they're just doing these ordinary things. We're going to look at this now. And what happens is God changes his viewpoint, he changes his lifestyle, he changes his job description, he changes everything about him, and his view becomes much, much larger than what he had now. Now here's what it is. Let me kind of give you this in a nutshell. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, your life should reflect a life that is surrendered. You came to Christ because you surrendered your life, your will. And he demands everything. Not some of it, but all of it. And once you surrender your life, then that aspect of sacrifice all belongs to him. It all belongs to him. There's nothing that I own in this life. It all belongs to him. He can take it anytime he wants to, and we're to give it all of our lives. And then out of that life that is surrendered, that life that is a sacrificial life, comes a life of service. Lord, what would you have for me to do? Lord, I'm a follower of you, and I will serve you all the days of my life, so that one day when I stand before you, you will call me well done and faithful. What? Of all the words he could have chosen, notice the word that he chooses. Do you see that? And so as a follower of Jesus Christ, we live a life, and it should be an air about us in all that we do, it's a life of surrender, it's a life of sacrifice, and it's displayed in our daily activity, a life of obedience, of a life that is surrendered and sacrificial. It comes in the life of service, of serving God, serving others, serving wherever God has put you. And that's where we find this story. The first thing we're going to look at is surrender. I want to show you this process in this story because I found it just so noticeable here. Now, remember what I said earlier about surrender. God never crushes your will to surrender. It is always your choice, and we see that played out here. God doesn't get you in a headlock and say, you're going to do this, you're going to submit to me, I'm going to make you do that. He never does that. Now, he will put obstacles, he will put these things in your life that will stop you and say, wait a minute, what am I doing here? He will give you those things, and he'll allow the consequences to stop you and the consequences to draw you closer to him. But he will never force you and crush you, your will, because it's your choice. We have a freedom of choice here. Let's look at this verse again. And so he departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Zephyr. And he was found with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him. And he was with the 12. Elijah passed him, cast his cloak or coat, if you want to, upon him, and he left the oxen and he ran after Elijah. It's kind of a strange deal. You know, when I surrendered my life into ministry, that didn't happen to me. I didn't go to the preacher and fill out a card and then he took his jacket off and threw it on me. He never did do that kind of thing. Say, now you're the new preacher. He didn't do that. I was on 16. Lord help him if that would have happened. That would have been disastrous here. But notice the setting here. I kind of set this up to you. I really want you to kind of understand what's going on here. Here's Elisha just doing everyday stuff. Y'all know that God speaks to us in everyday stuff? And I know sometimes we don't like that. I mean, we go through life, and Monday morning we get up, we do the same thing over and over again, and we just kind of try to make it through. And I'm telling you, God speaks to us in the everyday stuff if we listen. Now here he is. He's in the field, and what is he doing in the field, church? He's plowing some dirt. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? Yeah? Sounds exciting. He's plowing some dirt here. And the Bible says, notice the details here. And I really thought about all these details that are here. And it says here that He's got 12 pair of oxen. So in other words, those oxen represented he was from a very, very wealthy family. Because, that took a lot there. And 12 teams, that's 24 of these cows out there, and they're all doing that. And there's servants that are running the other two. He's running the 12th team of oxen here. Do you kind of see that? So there's 11 other servants out there, and he's with the servants, and they're all plowing this field, and there's 24 of these cows that are out there. What it says to us is that he comes from a very wealthy family, and he's probably the CEO of Elisha Farms. And he's working out there. Yeah, and so we kind of get the gist here. He's going through the motion. That's what he's doing. He's a farmer, and he's tilling the things, and he's just kind of doing that. I want you to get this picture real well. I want you to see his viewpoint. Every day he gets up, and every day he goes out to the field, and this is what he sees every day. Check this out. Anybody feel the same way? That's his viewpoint. That's his world right there. He's out there and he's plowing. All the thing he sees is that is so. That's what he sees all day long. And things come out of those cows. And that's what he has to deal with all day long. Yeah, it is great Sunday. That's right. That's his viewpoint. Anybody kind of feel that way? You go to work every day and you just, here we go again. That's his viewpoint. Now, no names here, okay? We're not going to do names. Y'all be a pastor, y'all be that. All right, anyway. And so, every day, this is what he sees. His life is this, and it's Monday, and he's kind of boring, kind of like, maybe so much on me, I feel like. In my life, I just feel like I'm just plowing behind a bunch of cows. And all I see is rear ends all day. That's my view. Maybe he's thinking, maybe one day, there's something different in my life. Maybe there's one day that I can change this. I'm happy to do it, and this is my job, and I'm going to do it. But maybe one day there'll be change. Let me throw something out here, because God laughed at this. But let me show you something. Go to the next thing. Listen, there is always a connection, but what's now and what's next. What that's so different. There's always, and I've said this to you about 2 weeks ago, there's always a connection of what's going on now and what's going to go on next. Always. So if you're alive, you go, man, I'm so bored, I'm just bored, I just do this over and over and over and over. You got to look at your now before you look at next. Some of us live like, man, if I could change this, or if this was changed, if I had more money, if I was smarter, or if I had, a different relationship, or whatever. If my now would change, then I could do my next. That's not true. Because remember what I said he was plowing? Notice what it says, particularly with this future man of God, what he's doing now. What is he doing? He was plowing what? Hard ground. How many of y'all farm? Never mind, I'm not going to ask that question. I'll talk to you because you teach me a lot about farming. I appreciate that. My little square box of garden stuff that I have. The most important thing when you prepare, when you're ready to plant seed is you've got to what? You've got to make the ground what? Soft. Thank y'all. You got to make the ground soft, and that's tilling the soil. You got to loosen that thing up. For the rest of his life, you know what Elisha is going to be doing? He's going to be tilling the hard hearts of Israel and the kings as he stood before them. Y'all see that? And so he's out there being faithful. I don't know about you, but I would never want to be a farmer. These guys, you ever see them out there in the tractors just all day, just plowing and stuff? That would be terrible. But he's out there, he's plowing, he's doing that, he's faithful to the task, because one day, what he did in that field, he's going to be in the hearts and the lives of Israel, God's people. I think that's so huge. And so what is now is preparing him for what is next. Notice here, I like what it says here. Go back to that verse again. So can you do that? No, I'm not. Notice the detail here. I know sometimes we can read scripture, we just kind of go over it, but I've read this so many times. Notice what it said here. He said he's plowing with the 12 oxen, talking about his wealth. He's got a lot of cows out there, a lot of servants out there that were in front of him. Did y'all catch that? And he was the 12th. In other words, he was the last guy way back here. Now I grew up in West Texas. You don't want to be the last guy plowing, because there's a lot of dust that's flowing in, right? And by the way, he's the master of all this. He owns that land. He can do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't even have to be out there working, right? And yet he's the last guy. You see that heart? He's dirty. He's covered with dirt because he's the last guy. The dust is coming up from the 11 other guys that are plowing out there. Dust is going everywhere. And he's the last guy, and he's out there being faithful to the task. Do you know what that says to me? He is being faithful in the now, so that when the next comes, he's going to be able to eat the dirt, eat the bad times, and know the task before him. He's not going to be a quitter. I don't know what you're doing in your now right now, but be faithful, okay? That's what I'm trying to say, okay? I took a long time to say one thing. Just be faithful where you're at. Be faithful in your now so that God will bless you in your next. Amen? Yeah. Show up to work on time. Do your very best. Treat your spouse the very best you can. You know, do those things that serve the Lord with gladness. Don't be a griper. Do the very best you can in the now, and God will give you the next. Amen? That's what I'm trying to say. Don't put that down. Just write it down in your heart. Just be done with it. So here we are. We see Elisha being faithful. He's a hard worker. He's humble. He doesn't have to be in the back of the crowd. He can lead out in this. He doesn't even have to work. He can have the other guys do. But notice the humility and the hard work that's displayed in him. He's being faithful in the now, so that God will give him the next. All right? Now, here's what's happened. An ordinary day. I'm sure he didn't wake up and said, you know, today, I think God's going to call me into ministry. I don't think he woke up that way. You'd have to be crazy to even think that way. Too much dust that he's eating to even think that way. He wakes up an ordinary day, he's going about his ordinary day, but something extraordinary happened in an ordinary day. A call from God. Look at verse 19. Check this out. Do we have verse 19? Well, let me read verse 19. Do we have verse 19? Anyway, we know Elijah shows up. Now everyone knows Elijah. They've heard stories about it. I mean, think about this. You have fire coming down, consuming these things, and then Jezebel's after him, the queen, and so everybody knows him. And so there's a recognition immediately who he is. So he knows exactly what's going on, and he knows what is happening. So here comes. Get the vision here. He's plowing away. And all of a sudden, this man of God, this famous man of God shows up. And doesn't say a word to him. Comes up to him. And check this out. Here's what happens here. Let's just kind of get this in. We got this rope for another illustration. So he takes his cloak, or his jacket if you want to. He's wearing this thing. And normally it's made out of animal skins. You know, does that have two arms? I think this is a good idea. Here we do this. And so what happens here? Okay. So here's what happens to him. He's plowing, and all of a sudden Elijah shows up, man of God, prophet, well known. He travels 300 miles, by the way, just to get here. And he does this strange thing. He takes off his coat. Some scriptures, I don't know what translation, some say they just tossed him on there. And others say that he wrapped him around it. But that's kind of a strange calling. They didn't do that when I was called to ministry and anything like that. Preacher would come up to me and over, and here's my jacket you wear, here's my famous tie that I wear every Sunday. I didn't do any of those things. So he does this. That's a strange thing. He just throws him the jacket, and then what does he do? He walks away. Did y'all see that? Is that weird? Is that weird or what? Anybody thinks it's weird? Well, see, we don't understand that way. We know it's that weird. But see, Elisha understood everything because he knew the prophet. He understood that he was giving him his mantle. He was giving him his authority. And this coat represented the call of God to be a prophet. He knew exactly what that meant. And so he just kind of tossed it to him. And then he walked away. Well, we can read that and we can just think, man, that is a strange thing. But remember what I told you about surrender? That God never crushes our will to surrender. It must be a choice. And so all of a sudden, he's holding this jacket, dirt covered. You know, he's holding this jacket, this coat, and he stands there, and he has a few seconds to respond. Because Elijah is walking away. He's going on. I didn't say a word to him, just walks on. I think that's a crazy story. So, what's the punchline? So here's the choice. Should I stay? Man, I've got this farm. I've got security. I've got a lot. People know me. I'm well received. I've got people to do my work. I don't really have to do that. Or should I go? Now remember, he understood who Elijah is. And he understood the turmoil that he had. That he's being chased by Jezebel and all the destruction. And people are after to kill him. He understands this is going to be a dangerous call. Should I go danger or security? Should I go with a life that is already set for me and my wealth is set and I've got it made? I can live the rest of my life out here with my mom and dad. I live with them and they take care of me. Mom feeds me and all these wonderful things. And I've got all this, a perfect picture. Or should I risk it all? Should I risk it all? See, the discipline of surrender calls for a response every single time. And let me say this also, that God's purpose in your life is not a parking spot for you. In other words, God's purpose in your life, He will show up in times in your life and He will speak to you and He's going to move on. He's not going to park there and just, make up your mind. You take your time, whatever you want to. Whatever you want to do, you do whatever you think you need to do, and I'm just going to wait for you until you settle what you need to do. God doesn't do that. There are times when God speaks and He moves on. He doesn't reserve us a parking place like we can just kind of think about that, or we can have it reserved anytime we want to show up to do that, what He calls us to do, and it's going to be cool with Him. Do y'all understand that? Are y'all getting that one? Are y'all getting that point? Don't make me preach that a little longer. Do y'all understand that? So we just think God's on our own timetable. That's what I'm trying to say. And so when God pitches up this road to us, okay, do we think we can just hold on to this till we get ready to do something? Do you understand that? So He reserves us a parking place. So we can do this whenever we want to. Do you understand that sometimes God says, you didn't choose? Okay, I'll think about it. Y'all getting that now? Can I move on? Yes. I think it's so important. Yes. Because a lot of us are kind of stuck somewhere. We're not moving on. We're just stuck. I'll address that in a minute. Hold on a minute. Here's also something I kind of looked at this. Elijah didn't wait for an explanation from Elisha. Elijah said, now tell me what this means, or can you explain what will I be doing, or can you give me a job description for me? How long do I have to do this before I become a big one? A lot of times God will speak to you and He won't explain what's next. We struggle with that. I mean, we really struggle with that because we go, wait a minute. So here's my point. We don't have to fully understand to fully obey. Y'all know that? Yes. There are times when we just have to be obedient to God. And let me just say it this way to get your attention. Sometimes we don't need to pray about it. Boy, wait a minute. Did I just say that? Yeah, I just said that. Sometimes when God speaks, why do we need to pray about it? God really speaks to us. We just act and be obedient to whatever. What's He praying about? That just perhaps kind of, we want to talk ourselves out of it or talk God out of it. Sometimes it was, well, let me think and pray about this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but when you know that you know, listen to it, this is the key. When you know that you know that you know that God has spoken, you need to act on that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because sometimes, you know what happens, a lot of times God moves on and then that opportunity is already gone. And who's responsible for that? I think we all know stories like that. I remember waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning one time. I invited one of my best buddies down for a worship conference, and he led the worship conference, and I was a senior pastor in this church, and I brought him down to lead a worship conference for us. And 3 in the morning, God wakes me up and says, go tell him that he needs to be your associate pastor. I said, I'm not doing that. You tell him. He's sleeping on my living room floor, him and his son, Brandon, he's sleeping on the living room floor, on a mattress thing or whatever. I'm not sure. Should have gave him my bed, but I didn't. Anyway, and so I go in there, and he's got covers over him. I pull the covers back and said, hey, guess what? God just told me he wants you to be my associate pastor, so go back to sleep and I'll talk to you in the morning. What? I know. So I go back to bed. He doesn't. So he leaves the next morning. I wouldn't think they went up to Rudos and hung out. And so I call his wife and say, hey, Krista, I think this is what God told me. So, well, he's not going to go. We're in this big church now. It's growing in Grapevine, Texas. Grapevine's out of control. This was years ago. And so he's not going to go with you. And I said, well, I just told the story. Well, he's not going to go. So he calls me back the next morning. Guess what time? Yeah, he got 3 o'clock the next morning. He wakes me up and said, I know Krista told you that I probably wouldn't, but I'm going to do this. Isn't that cool? Now here's the thing, guys. Listen to me. There are times we've got to respond very quickly. We've got to be obedient to Him. I think y'all pray about that. I really do. You ought to pray about it. But when we know that God has spoken. So here's my question. When was the last time you just stopped what you were doing when you heard God speak and turn around and run after Him without any reservation?
Yeah.
Huh? When's the last time you stopped what you were doing and turned around and said, I'm going to run toward Him, and I don't care about whatever else happens. Notice what here's his response. Ready? Here's a surrendered life. Okay, I'm going to run after you. And he took off running as hard as he could and kept up. Because why? He surrendered. Say surrender. When you surrender your life, run after God. Second, we move on. I've got a long way to go. Sacrifice. The actions of a surrendered life is sacrifice. Here's the sacrifice, the point of no return going back. Let me read you this verse here. Can I get you prepared for this? And he ran after Elijah and said, let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I'll follow you. And he said to him, go back again for what I've done to you. And he returned from following him, and he took the yoke of oxen and sacrificed them and boiled their flesh and barbecued them. That says boiled. All the translation says he cooked them. Their flesh with the yoke of the oxen and gave it to the people, and they had a good party for him. He's a faithful son here, by the way. I know some of you may be thinking about the story Jesus told, about the son who said, or the son that said, I will follow you, Jesus. And Jesus said, well, come on, said, well, first let me go and be with my father till he dies. I set everything in order, then I'll follow you. Remember that story? Yes. Okay, that's Luke 9. And that's what, here's a faithful son just saying, notice he has permission to do this. He didn't tell. The guy just told me, well, I'm going to go do this first. Notice here, said, let me do this first. And he's being a faithful son. He wasn't just going to go AWL. He wasn't just, missing in action, type of thing. He was going to go home to his mother or father and tell him, look, here's what's happened to me. Let's skip that next scripture verse. Let me go to verse 21. Notice here, verse 21. When we returned from following, he took the yoke of oxen. Remember what the yoke of oxen represented? What? His wealth, his security, his retirement, if you would. That yoke of oxen meant that when he did that, he did this crazy thing. He didn't have to do that, but he took his oxen and what did he do? He sacrificed them. Now we kind of understand that, don't we? differently. I mean, a lot of times when there's a sacrifice made of oxen, it was a sacrifice symbolism of a commitment to God, or recommitment to God. But notice what he did. He not only killed his oxen, but he barbecued them. And then he said, I want to invite all my neighbors, because what I'm fixing to do, I want it to be known publicly. It's not a private thing, but I'm going to invite all my friends to know that I made this commitment and I'm going to be fulfillment. And also things of accountability. I'm sure his parents were there saying, look, Mom and Dad, I'm doing this, and I'm going to celebrate with you one more time, and I'm going to take my oxen and I'm going to sacrifice them. Notice Elisha only had a few seconds to determine what he was going to do. A life-changing, I'm all in, get off the fence. But once he made that, he was all in. You know? Remember the rich young ruler? I think the rich young ruler would have followed Jesus if Jesus said, well, how about, you know, Jesus said, well, you need to go all your money. He goes, I can't give all my money. But what if he said, how about if you give like 30% of your money? How about that? And slowly we're going to increase it. I think the rich young ruler said, okay, I'm in. Like, I think that's how we want God's calling in our lives. God speaks to us and said, well, how about if I give you Sunday mornings? And I got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for myself. You know? We kind of did. All right, never mind. I was going to go with that, but y'all aren't interested. So he sacrifices. I love the details here. He sacrificed those oxen. What does that represent? He sacrificed his security. He sacrificed his future. He sacrificed everything, his wealth that we need money to maintain our lives in this world. I got that. He sacrificed it all to follow him. He's all in or nothing. Check. I don't have this up there. So I wrote it this morning. Let me say this. To step, do I have that one? No, you couldn't have it. To step toward your destiny. Listen to me. Look up here. Eyes open. To step toward your destiny, you have to step away from your security. Did I say it real slow for y'all? To step into your destiny, God's purpose for you, His calling for you, His obedience, your obedience to Him, to step into your destiny, your purpose in life, you have to step away from your security. And we struggle with that. So notice what he did next. I think this is kind of wild, isn't it? He burned the plow. That's what he did. He was going to make sacrifice. They're going to have a barbecue. He's going to barbecue the cows. And he could have asked his servants and said, I want y'all to go to the woodshed, bring a bunch of wood because we're going to have a barbecue here. He didn't do any of that stuff, did he? He took the very thing that made a livelihood, the very thing that's, by the way, those were very expensive in those days too. You didn't burn a plow. You took care of that because they were very expensive equipments for farmers. And he took the very thing that gave him life and the thing, the substance and the thing that was expensive in his life, and he took that very thing and he burned it. That takes a whole new perspective with what Jesus, well, that's scripture first, all right? Yeah. Remember when Jesus said this, whoever comes after me and does not hate his own father, mother, wife, and children, brothers and sisters? Yes. Keep going to the next one. I think it's Luke 9. Yeah, there it is. And Jesus said to him, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Y'all remember that verse?
Yeah, sure do.
Did y'all know it was way back there? It takes a whole new perspective here. We read that verse, we go, well, I'm not a farmer, so I don't have to worry about that. We have a farmer who went and burned his plow. Well, why in the world did he do that? He had all these other options to do. He didn't have to do the plow. Why do you think he did that? Huh? Commitment? Some people thought you should be committed after that, right? You burned the plow. Why don't you just give it away? You know? Kind of like the Jews say, well, why is she taking that expensive perfume and broke it open and poured it over your head? We got a lot of bunch of poor people. They could be sold it and give it away. Anybody else? Yeah, commitment. Sacrifice.
So he will not return to it.
Who said that?
Yeah.
Who said that? Raise your hand, don't be afraid. What'd you say? Who is that back there?
So he will not return to it.
For all you in the room, Jack said, so that he won't return. That's right. Plan B. Be a good farmer. He's got plan A. Be a prophet. He burned it so there would be no temptation to come back to that old lifestyle. He burned it so that there would be times when it would be hard and tough and difficult as a prophet. He'd be chased by those. He'd be persecuted. He knew that if he burned the very thing that he was called to do before the call of God, that if he destroyed it and sacrificed it, that he would not go back. No turning back, no second thoughts. He's not going to keep something in the background. Well, if this ministry doesn't work out, I can always go back and do this very thing. It was all or nothing. Y'all see that? Isn't that incredible? I'm so glad it was him and not you, right? God ever do that again? Does God do that kind of stuff? I say this all the time. You know, 9 out of 10 failures are because when something didn't work out, we went back to plan B. We just get stuck there. Y'all know that? When things get hard, we go, well, I can fall back on this. I got to be honest with you, my own sons here. So, well, what's your plans? Okay, well, they tell me maybe a lofty plan. I go, well, you better have something back to fall back on. That's my advice to them. And yet, in the kingdom of God, what it really says to us, we're not to have a plan B. We only have one plan, and it's costly. So burn the plow. You're all in, or don't go at all. That's what Jesus said. Somebody who's plowing, call of God, and looks back and says, well, I can always go back and do this again, is not worthy. Don't show your hand, but I mean, kind of struggle with that. Don't raise your hand. I think most of us, our hands would be really high. We struggle with that. Can I have a resource? Can I keep somebody? And maybe some of us are still living in plan B, and we never get out of plan B because God called us to plan A, and yet we're still living in plan B. I see this all the time. People, when it doesn't work out, well, I'm just going to go back and do that. When things get hard and difficult, well, I'm just going to go back there. I'm going to move back there. I'm going to live back there. I'm going to embrace that old lifestyle because at least I have some security there. And this thing called walking with Jesus all the time, it's too hard for me. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to pull back a little bit of my life because it's just too damn hard. You might have heard of a guy named Horatio Cortez.
Yeah, you burned your ship.
No, he's not your neighbor. No, he's not your neighbor. Horatio Cortez. He was a guy that came to Mexico and conquered the empire of the Aztecs. And Montezuma, he conquered. I'm going to tell you a little story. I know, let me just say this, the way that he did that is horrendous and barbaric. And we're not advocating that. Just kind of keep this aside. I'll tell you a story about how that happened. He took 600 men. About 1519, they landed in Veracruz, Mexico. And he'd been there twice, and both expeditions were failures. They couldn't colonize. The enemy would come, and the Aztec enemy would come and wipe them out. But this last time when he showed up there, he was bound and determined that it would work. And he took 600 men against 5 million. It was, I think it was like 7,500 to 1 of his soldiers. The odds were insurmountable. And yet, in 2 years, he conquered that nation, the Aztec Empire and the Montezuma. How did he do that? I mean, that's crazy. Here's what he did. When he landed there in April 1519, he landed there, what he did, he unloaded the boats, and then he ordered 11 ships to be burnt. And as his men, those 500-600 men, watched this, they knew that there was no retreat. There's no way out of this. There was, when it really, really got tough, they didn't have a plan B. There was no plan B. There was no plan C. There was nothing other than the fact that there was no option, there was no giving up, no matter how hard it was, that they had to stick it out. For us, the Bible is very clear that that's exactly the call that we're to do, that same mindset, not that manner, that same mindset. Mark 8:34 says, if anyone will come after me, let him what? Deny himself. I'm going to finish the rest of it.
Take care of his cross.
So often we come to Jesus and we come for the benefits and not the sacrifice. We come to Jesus because we know that we're going to have a sense of purpose in our life, a sense of of peace in our life, perhaps, a sense of knowing that we belong somewhere, a sense of identity in our life, and that's not why we come to Jesus. We come to Jesus by denying ourselves and taking up the cross and then following Him. See, the disciples knew what that really meant. We kind of watered that down a lot in the process. We think, well, if we're followers of Jesus, that means we go to church, and that's good. Or we may tithe, that's good. And we may maybe do a mission work every once in a while, or kind of get moved to do something outside of the realm of our security, and that's good. All those are good. But see, the disciples that Jesus called knew what that really meant. Think of it this way. If you went to the home of somebody in this church, and you walked in their home for the very first time, and on their wall, you saw a picture of a hangman's noose. And in the kitchen, you saw a picture of an electric chair. Or you saw in their bedroom a picture of a gas chamber. What would you think? You probably would leave, right? Weird people. All these are deaf things. And yet, probably in your home, as well as in my home, you have crosses all in your home, right? These are trinkets and identification. And yet the reality of what a cross is a death sentence. And the disciples knew that. When they were called into this, and they had challenges in their own life, and they knew that they had signed up for a death sentence. And let me just kind of read you what happened to some of these disciples. Thomas, you remember doubting Thomas? What happened to him? He was stabbed with a pine stick. He was beaten and he was tortured, and finally in India he was burned alive. Matthew was stabbed in the back in Ethiopia. James was thrown off the east side of the temple, the southeast side of the temple, about 100 feet. He was thrown off the temple, and he survived that, only to have the mob come with clubs and to club him to death. We know Peter. Peter was crucified upside down, and Simon was also crucified in Syria. And all the disciples, I don't know if it's an exceptional group, I understand that, Paul says that, but we get the idea they understood this, and except for one, John, who didn't receive a martyr's death. But you got to understand, before he ever was exiled to the island of Patmos. Yeah, thank you for that. I was searching for that. For the island of Patmos, he was boiled, and he survived. So all these guys, they understood what it is, and yet we today, we think the cross is just a symbol of our identity and the things. Let me ask you a question. Do you want God to use you? You go ahead and say yes or no. Yes. Okay, for the three of you that said yes, write this down. It's not in that there. It's another one of those. I think this is the last time. Listen to this. Listen clearly. You want to follow God? You want God to use you? Here it is. Then here it is. Those God uses the most are the ones who hold on to the least. Those God uses the most are the ones that hold on to the least. So we have, did y'all get that? Those that God uses the most are the ones who chooses to list let go. God uses you. So I'm not close to being now. So we have Elisha. He has sacrificed everything. He's given up. He's all in. He's burned things he shouldn't be burning. He's sacrificed. He's thrown this big party. He's made an announcement. He's leaving. He's told his mom. He's told his friends. He's told his servants. He's taken the very ox that probably he raised himself. He's destroyed them. He's taken that plow that probably had his initials on the side and said Elisha was here or something like that. I don't know. And he's burned it all. He says, I'm all in. I'm ready to be a prophet, right? In fact, by the way, he's still, you're sleeping on the jacket. He's still got the jacket on, right? I mean, he's got the credentials, he's got the sacrifice, he's done it all. He runs it. Now he's a prophet, I'm in, right? No. Notice what happens in that last verse, in verse 21. Notice what it says there. What does it say? Come on, Joe. Keep going. Look what it says. rose from after Elijah, and he what? All I cannot be on this deal. And he says that he became his servant. He became his servant. Servant's the way up in the kingdom of God is down. Jesus says this very well, that the greatest in the kingdom of God is the least. In other words, one who serves is the greatest in the kingdom of God. So the way up, to be lifted up in the kingdom of God, is the way down. Here is the CEO, a wealthy farmer, and now he becomes what? Say it. Servant. He becomes a servant. Later, he's still got the robe thing going on. He still had Elijah say, you're going to be the man, you're going to follow me. I mean, he's got that. He's got the mount idea. He didn't say it, but he understood what was happening here. He knew he was going to be the new prophet. He's the man. And then he becomes a what?
Servant.
You'll see that? Becomes a servant. And Moses was that way. You see David? David's going to be a king. Guess what you're going to do now? Go take care of sheep. Do you think David said, wait a minute, I'm the king now? Kings don't do that kind of sheep stuff. No, you're going to be shepherd. Moses is going to bring the deliverance. He said, now go in the wilderness for 40 years. You're going to learn how to do what? A servant, a servant, a servant, a servant. Check this next thing I got. Whenever God tells people in Scripture, they nearly always go through a time of what? Yeah, they do, don't they? See, you know what? If you're into power and personal fulfillment, go be a Muslim. Because the leader of the Muslim faith, he rode in on a horse and conquered cities, destroyed people's lives so that he could have this fulfillment of himself. The Muslim leader did that. Jesus, on the other hand, what did he do? He rode a donkey into the city. He washed people's feet. He said, I didn't come to be served, but I am a servant. He also loved those who were unlovable as a servant. He served people. He even gave himself, willfully gave himself as a sacrifice, as a servant. So we're followers of Jesus Christ. We must identify that it's not about personal fulfillment and power in our life. It's all about being a servant. A servant. And here's how we begin this process. Let me write this thing. We just put our yes on the table. Let me explain what that means. I read this story years ago, and I love this story. A little girl, missionary came and was talking about mission work and these things in the church, and probably Baptist church, and I'll tell you why. So he's talking about this. Always in seminary, I'd always skip out on chapel days when missionaries came. Because, man, I always felt convicted to be a missionary after they got 3 o'clock, and so I just wouldn't go. You all right? A little grace. Can you give me some grace here? All right. And so this preacher talked and gave an invitation for those that might consider being a missionary. So this little 8-year-old goes forward, and she fills out a card. That's why I'm thinking it's a Baptist church. She filled out a card, and she went over to the offering plate, and she just placed it there. She came back and said by her father. Her father said, well, did God tell you to be a missionary? And she goes, no. I said, well, you went forward, you filled out something, you put on the room. She said, yes, Daddy. I just went forward and I told God, yes. Whenever He's ready to call me to be anything, my answer is yes. To be a servant, you put your yes. You don't fill out the rest of it, you just put your yes and trust the Lord that He will lead you. Remember this, though. There will often be a test before transition. Check the story out. See, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 21. I'm going to be your servant. But here comes, and there's going to be a transition. He's left being a farmer, and now he's going to be a prophet. And so he's in this transitional time, and we don't hear anything from him for several chapters until 2 Kings chapter 2. Then we pick up the story. Now check this out. Watch this. Stay with me just for a minute. I know we're out of time here. So what Kevin go about 6 minutes more? Or you said you didn't answer 10 minutes more. Okay. And so for 6, 7, 8 years, some scholars even put it 12 to 14 years, but whatever. A long period of time has passed from when he was called, when he's following him, until we see this story that we're about to read. So here's this transitional time. And so what has Elisha been doing for Elijah? He's been his servant. In other words, he fixes breakfast, his lunch, his dinner. He makes sure his clothes are clean, whatever, there's fresh water. He's taking care of him. He follows him. He makes sure that his master is fully taken care of. CEO to servant. Y'all get that? Not just for a day or two. Not till the trip is over with. Not till Elijah dies and so Elisha becomes the main prophet. None of that. For 6, 7, 8, 10 years, he's doing this. That's a long time, isn't it? Be somebody's housemaid. Some of you wives, I've been 30 years now being my housemaid. So now, we pick this up in 2 Kings. And now Elijah's time is ended. It's time for this transition to happen. Can I say something that read too much here? Because I'm finishing some great stuff here. I hate skipping. In chapter 2, on 3 occasions, here's what happens. The first time is in verse 2. They're both together, and Elijah, still the prophet, still the main man, Elisha is his what? Servant. And Elijah says to Elisha, said, hey, God's told me to go to Bethel, but you just need to stay here. I got this. And then in verse 4, verse 4, the same thing happens again, but different city. He says, I want to go to Jericho. But Elijah, you stay here, and I need to go because God told me that. And then finally we see Jordan experience it in verse 8 or 9 in there. Now here's the point here. This is the man of God speaking to his servant. And he's offering these offerings a chance to back off. He says, I'm going there, God told me to go there, but you don't have to go with me. And he's been serving him for all this time. And notice the response. We're going to read this later when we get home. We're not going to go over that. But notice the response. Every single time Elisha said this to Elijah, Elijah's response says, no, I'm going with you. I'm all in here. Remember, I'm the one that burnt my plow. Remember, I'm the one that sacrificed. I don't have anything to go back to. I'm not going back to that stuff. I'm following you. Every single time he does that. And then he gets to the Jordan River. And Jordan, the word Jordan always means new transition, the promises of God, crossing over into the promises of God, this new transition. It always represents this. And so now we're going to see the fulfillment of this transition. But here's what I want to say. You got heard. God will offer you off-ramps in your life to test you. Are you really committed? And some of y'all take the off-ramp. I don't think, I'm going to go here for a while. I think I'm going to just enjoy this. I know God, you directed me here, but I'm going to take a break for a while until I'm out there. Everybody living in the off-ramp there? See, this is God doing this. This isn't the devil doing this. This is a man of God offering. You want out? You get out. Don't do it. Stay with it. Here, verse 7, 50 men of the sons of the prophets. In other words, these are the followers of God. 50 of them, right? But they're standing on. They're not close. It could be, but they choose not to be. Probably afraid of Elijah. They saw him with the belly. We've seen fire come down. We're going to get burned there. And stood at the same distance to them. They both were standing at the Jordan. Then Elijah took off his cloak, wrote it. Apparently, somewhere on he got his jacket back, right? The servant doesn't wear the master's jacket. He gave it back to him somewhere. He realized he was servant. I think he took it home to mom and dad. Look what I got. But I got it back. Elijah took off his cloak, rolled it up, stuck it in the water parted one side and the other. Then the other, they went in the dry ground, keep going. And when they crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, ask what you want before I'm taken with you. In other words, he said, listen, okay, I'm about to leave you. Whatever you want, you ask me. He probably saw some incredible miracles. In fact, Elijah is the one who done most of the miracles. Except for Jesus, now Elisha does just as many. Except for Jesus, he does more. He says this, he can ask for anything. Think about this. He He says, you know what I want? I've watched you. I've heard you. I've been with you for 7, 8 years. I want a double portion of your spirit. Isn't that incredible? Listen to this. The prodigal son knows this better. Substance will always outweigh stuff. Did I say it a little slow? Substance will always outweigh stuff. Prodigal son had stuff, he ran out. He comes back to substance to his father. He says, I want your substance. I want what you have in your life. I see that. That's what I want. Well, what a great statement. Is that a great statement or what? You know, are y'all ready to go home? Yeah, I see that little hand. And here's what he says. Verse 10. He says, you want it? Notice what he said. You have asked a hard thing. In other words, it's going to be very difficult for you to have this, to follow this. You've asked a very hard thing. And it was. And then he says there's another off-ramp. Here it is. If you see me as I'm being taken from you, and he's lifted by the chariots, we'll see how they're growing over there. You see this one been taken from you, it shall be. But if you don't see me, in other words, if you back off, you're not going to get it. Following Jesus means your life will reflect your decision of a daily lifestyle of surrender, sacrifice, and service. Here's my closing right here. Look over here. Take off the screen, Joe. Here's my challenge to you and to me. I think we've got to burn some flags. And by that I mean, we've got to let go of some things in our life that's a distraction. It may be good things. But as a follower of Jesus Christ, we deny ourselves. And by denying ourselves, everything else, like Paul says, looks like dung to us. Burn our lives. Some of us need to let go of maybe a lifestyle that you're choosing to live. Maybe some things in your life. You just need to let those things go so that you can be completely surrendered and sacrificial and servant to Him. Let Him go. It may be a relationship. You just need to let Him go. It may be a lifestyle. It may be some things in your heart. You just need to let those things go and trust the Lord. And the second thing here is that if we surrender our all, we don't start off small. I think I illustrated that with the rich young ruler. Well, how about just some of your wealth? Jesus said, give all of it. We don't start small, we just give all of it. So the prayer for us today, maybe we go something like this. Lord, today I let go of the things that I've held so tight. And I surrender all my life to you, and I'm going to display that all this belongs to you. Everything that belongs to you, it all belongs to you. And today I'm going to give that to you. And I'm going to serve you with all of my heart. God, as you open these doors, I'm going to be open to the leading of your Spirit, because I know that it takes bold faith to do great things for your kingdom. And we saw that in the life of Elisha. He did a bold, crazy thing. But look how God blessed him all the days of his life. I asked you a question earlier, and this is it. How many of y'all want to be used by God? Or once you say, yeah, I want to be used by God. Surrender, sacrifice, and serve in the ordinary, and allow the Lord to call you to the extraordinary. Amen? I'm done. It didn't hurt, did it? It does a lot. Let's pray together. Lord, we thank you again. Thank you for the word of God. We thank you for the presence of your Holy Spirit speaking to us today and knowing us. And Lord, this thing called surrender, sacrifice, service has been so confused in our lives. And forgive us when we've tried to define that, maybe excuse that in our small proportions. Lord, you call us just as you did with Elisha. Lord, forgive us when you passed on and we didn't run after you. But today we choose to run after you. Trusting you that the goodness of the Lord will be our strength, but also that your grace and mercy will be found when we've not done that. So today, Lord, we run after you. We abandon our lives. We deny ourselves so we can follow after you. Thank you for this time, this decision. For those that are making